be realistic. Number two, Mr. Speaker. Number two, Mr. Speaker. The fact that counties continue to misuse and abuse, Mr. Speaker.
What is the point of order, Senator?
I hope my time is frozen.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on standing order number 102 on retraction and apologies. Mr. Speaker, we respect your chair. And the magnitude of that respect is bestowed on us as senators, constantly being aware of rulings that you have made in this House. Mr. Speaker, standing order number 102 indicates that a senator who has used exceptionable words and declines to explain or retract the words or to offer apologies for the use of the words to the satisfaction of the Speaker shall be deemed to be disorderly and shall be dealt with in accordance with the rules pertaining to disorderly conduct, which are further advanced in 122 all the way to 126, Mr. Speaker. In this House today, Mr. Speaker, the Senator of Nandi has constantly used the term, the handshake government. And Senator Sifuna has been on this floor a number of times asking him to substantiate what the handshake governments mean, when it was voted under our laws in this country, and who headed that government in the best understanding of Kenyans, and he keeps on using that term in this House and misleading the House with that term, ending up misleading the entire country. And I wanted to invite your ruling, Mr. Speaker, for once and for all, that can Senator Cherargei tell this House and this nation who voted for handshake government, and if not, apologize, retract, and if possible, Mr. Speaker, make a determination that he should never use that word in this House. Because we only know that there was a Jubilee government that had President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Deputy President William Ruto, who used resources of this nation for 10 good years and was influencing policies for 10 good years in over 9 ministerial positions that he had control over. Mr. Speaker, I beg your ruling.
Senator Eddy, we live in this country. There's some matters you need to take judicial notice of. Let us not go down that lane. The term handshake is known to all of us. What became of the last government is known to all of us, the chair and all senators and Kenyans included. Please let us not go down that route. Of course, there is no government called handshake that was voted in by the people of Kenya. Just like there was no coalition government that was voted into government by Kenyans. The coalition government was a creature of politicians after the elections. We know that after the elections in 2017, the Honorable Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta was declared the winner in a repeat election. However, the leader of opposition then, in his wisdom, decided to bury the hatchet with the then president by extending a hand that came to be known as the handshake. And it's public knowledge that thereafter, the opposition then, and the chair was also on the other side, then sitting the opposition, instead of the opposition opposing government policies, it's public knowledge, and Senator Eddy, you know this very well, that at some point after the handshake, instead of the Jubilee government explaining government policies, the opposition was expounding and explaining government policies. We live in this country and we know exactly what it means when you say the handshake. It was done in broad daylight. The only people who never saw that but had it are maybe the Kenyans who are maybe physically, visually handicapped. But they heard about it. But all of us who could see, saw. And therefore, let us not run away from what confronted us and from what we all witnessed. So, to stand here, inviting the chair to rule that indeed the word handshake is unparliamentary, and therefore the Senator Fernandes should withdraw and apologize. Cannot be. So I am rendering a ruling on your point of order. So to that extent, I overrule your point of order and allow the Senator Fernandes to proceed to conclude their statement. Proceed, I've made my ruling on this matter, let's proceed. What is your point of order?
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have found ourselves in this situation before. What Senator Fumigori was objecting to was not the use of a term handshake. It was the use of a phrase handshake government and attribution to some of the things that happened to this creature called handshake government. Mr. Speaker, if you look at Article 3, Subarticle 2 of the Constitution, it says, any attempt to establish a government otherwise than in compliance with this Constitution is unlawful. Governments are not constituted by handshakes. There was nothing wrong with leaders in this country. I shake hands with Cherargei every day. We do not establish a handshake. Mr. Speaker, what we are objecting to is reference to, this is a House of Record, Mr. Speaker. The history of this country records that, in fact, we have had 5 governments. The KANU government, the Kenyatta One administration, the Kibaki government, which was actually a coalition government that was as a result of talks that resulted in an actual government. We all know what a government means. What we are saying, there is nothing wrong with referencing handshakes. Nobody is objecting to that, Mr. Speaker, and your wisdom has guided us there. The phrase handshake government is what we have a problem with, because you cannot establish a government by shaking somebody's hand. That is not what is provided for under the Constitution. You have to go to an election, you have to win an election, you have to establish a government by the means provided for in this Constitution. So, Mr. Speaker, for you to recognize any entity as a government established otherwise than by that procedure that is set out in this constitution, Mr. Speaker, is to elevate something that is an unlawful entity, which we believe did not exist. Mr. Speaker, yes,
Very well,
just
Senator.
a minute, let me conclude, please. Mr. Speaker, I beg you to let me conclude with one point only.
Proceed.
That, Mr. Speaker, just like you, I was the Secretary General of ODM, the largest party in the coalition called NASA then. Mr. Speaker, I still remain the Secretary General of ODM. I know for a fact that we did not join any government. My failure to speak on an issue, Mr. Speaker, does not
The
constitute...
senator is on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr.
You
Speaker.
certainly cannot raise a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, as the SG of ODM,